Well, thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Good evening. Thank you very much, James, and welcome everybody to this super spreader event. And you may not know this, but I've been reading Time Out. I've been reading my listings guides, and you are sitting in what is the #1 recording of a libertarian podcast in a church in the whole of Westminster this Friday evening, ladies and gents. It doesn't get any better than this. So my name's Dominic Frisby. My pronouns are me. And I shall be comparing this evening's proceedings for you. Give me a big cheer if you've heard of me. Give me a cheer if you've never heard of me. You ignorant fools. For those of you that have never heard of me, as well as being a stand-up comedian, an occasional songwriter, I'm a writer. In fact, first and foremost, I see myself as a writer. If any of you have seen The In-Betweeners, or The IT Crowd, or way back when, The Fast Show, so have I. And I thought they were all really good. I thought they were fantastic. And I just wish I'd had a part in their creation. So let me, I am, as you can see, a white, straight, middle-class, middle-aged man. So if you are looking for someone to blame for everything that's wrong in the world, I've got plenty to offer. Now, so let me explain how this evening's going to work, ladies and gents. It's an evening of two halves, very traditional, very conventional in that form. The first half is a panel discussion by CAR26, this evening's sponsors. Woo! All about cars, presumably. And then then we're going to take an interval, and then in the second half, I'm going to come and do some songs for you. Whee! And then the headline event, James will be talking to Majad, and that will be the second half of the show. So, does everyone understand how it works? Good stuff. So let us welcome our CAR26 panel, ladies and gents. And I'm going to do it quite quickly so it sort of speeds it along. But we start off with Lois Perry. And then we have Lance Forman. And then we have Lawrence Fox. And then we have Andre Walker. And finally, we have Lorraine Allanson, the fracking queen. And you guys are going to talk for about half an hour. And Lois, I think you are the moderator, the compere of this little bit, is that right?
That's
the
right.
Chairperson.
I'm the director of CAR26. You can say chairman if you like.
She is the chairman and director, so I leave you with Lois, ladies and gents, and off we go.
Hello, good evening and welcome. For those of you that I've not yet had the pleasure of meeting, my name is Lois Perry and I'm the director of CAR26, which has nothing to do with cars, actually. It's climate analysis reason, and well, a little bit to do with cars. And I'm delighted to be hosting tonight's discussion about climate change, alleged, global warming, alleged, and the cost of living crisis, which is unfortunately extremely real and completely unavoidable. In fact, we're doing a little bit of warming ourselves. We're the warm-up act with my hot guests tonight for the main event, which is obviously James Dellingpod and Majid Nawaz. Yeah. CAR26 was formed last year to take the piss out of COP26, but they actually managed to do that quite well themselves. With the whole circus falling down and actually the minister in charge ending up actually crying his eyes out. So there you go. So our main successes today include launching the first poll in October last year to do with net zero. We actually did a poll which showed that 58% of those that expressed an opinion wanted a net zero referendum, and that was back then. So imagine what it would be like now with all our wonderful campaigning that we've done at CAR26 and also with the cost of living crisis and everything that's been going on. We also launched a campaign to end the ban on fracking. We've got 16,000 signatures, but we need to get to that magic 100,000 to have it debated in Parliament. That's if the MPs aren't too busy watching porn on their phones or crossing and uncrossing their legs. Yes, Angela, anything you can do, I can do better. Yeah. And we have been appearing on a host of TV and radio shows fighting the fight for common sense, climate sense and living sense. Tonight, on our heroic panel, we have Lance Forman, the king of smoked salmon, businessman, former politician, with broad enough shoulders and big enough balls, or so he tells me repeatedly, to be able to speak his mind. We have Andre Walker, who, like Lance, you laugh in the face of woke 21st century cancel culture, and you always call a spade a shovel. Is that right?
Shovel.
A shovel, a shovel. Lorraine Allanson, the queen of fracking. She has fought the fracking campaigners. She's lived and breathed it, and you're an expert. And you've got your book on sale, which you can buy in the foyer. And finally, Lawrence, what can I say? Last, but by no means least, the fantastic Mr. Fox, my good friend and sparring partner, leader of the Reclaim Party, who describes himself on Twitter as ahead of the curve. And who are we to disagree? Thank you so much to all of you for being here with me tonight. So, Lance, what's all this got to do with the price of fish, eh?
Oh. Thank you, Lois, for that fabulous introduction. What's it got to do with the price of fish? It's got everything to do with the price of fish. I mean, it literally has everything to do with the price of fish. Because fish prices, I mean, I know about salmon prices, and salmon prices have shot up by 60% since the start of the year. I first started getting interested in this whole debate about climate change last October, when my business faced its electricity costs of £200,000. That was double. And we're only a small business. That's a hell of a lot of extra fish to sell, actually, to cover that. And interestingly, I was called by an electricity broker a couple of days ago who was trying to sell me electricity, and I said, look, it's too late. I've tied up for 3 years. And I said, but what would we be paying if we negotiated a deal now? And she said, £600,000.
Right. Okay.
So prices are crazy. And we buy lots of other foods, egg prices, dairy, it's gone up 25, 30%. Everything is shooting up. And I don't think politicians have got a clue about what's really happening. The official figures are supposed to be about 7 or 8% inflation. I'm sure we're well into double figures already. And I think that, I really think it's going to get very serious out there by the end of the year. We might end up with riots on the streets, not Extinction Rebellion riots, but real riots for people that cannot afford to heat or eat. I am, in a sense, quite hopeful that the cost of living crisis could be the end of net zero, because I think that this is an awakening, and I think that what we've heard over the last couple of years from politicians the whole time is we keep hearing, oh, you've got to follow the science, or we're following the science. If you're in business, you don't just follow one thing. You take a whole lot of things into consideration. You follow the science, you follow the all sorts of other costs and so on.
COVID showed us that. If you follow the science and not look at the collateral damage, look what happens.
Exactly. Yeah. We followed the science, supposedly. It might have been your science, but not everybody else's science. We had this lockdown.
Ours, no.
It's bankrupted our economy. We're paying that back now. People are saying the war is the cost of food prices going up. It's not the war. It's because we've screwed ourselves by handing over all our energy to Russia, and we're funding this mad war. We are the ones that are funding it. It is crazy. So, we need some, as you say, common sense.
Absolutely. And Lorraine, you were talking to me about the corruption that's going on. Basically the people that were in charge of the fracking campaigns that targeted you in Yorkshire, that you've written about in your book, and now the head of the energy companies, is that right? The renewable solar energy companies in your area?
That's right.
Disgusting, isn't it?
Yeah. One of the chief main people who fought against fracking and who formed Frack Free United, which was an umbrella group for all the frack-free groups, actually now is a director of several renewable companies. And although he didn't want fracking in our area with a little well pad, and I live in the Vale of Pickering, and there's 8 already conventional well pads and a gas-powered generating station, the indigenous population don't mind gas at all. But he fought against that. He said it would industrialise the countryside. He's now planning to put hundreds of acres of solar panels over good farmland. A couple of the big people in the anti-fracking movement are doing that. It's so corrupt, really, and you know, their argument is, oh, well, we need solar, but yet they're industrialising the countryside. How can you say that's good for the planet if you're covering it with glass and plastic, and then you can't recycle it?
Because it's nothing to do with saving the planet. This is
not,
about
it's
globalisation,
money.
it's about control, it's about restriction, and it's a libertarian issue, 100%. But I mean, you've talked a lot about NGOs deliberately putting misinformation out to kids, haven't you? Talk to us about that.
Well, when we were in the midst of all the anti-fracking going on in our area, Friends of the Earth were very involved. They would help set up the local little groups. They would say it was grassroots groups, but actually it wasn't. They were behind it. And they produced a leaflet with 8 sides, and 5 sides of that leaflet were actually begging for money. It's all a money racket to them.
Yeah.
And on that leaflet, they said there would be health issues with fracking, your house price would plummet, you know, it would industrialise the countryside. And actually 2 old guys complained to the Advertising Standards Authority because as a charity, you cannot lie to fundraise. No. And they spent 14 months, did Friends of the Earth, fighting that. And eventually they had to agree with the Advertising Standards Authority that they would not reproduce that leaflet. But they very cleverly then swapped to their limited company. So it's the same premises, same staff, same logo. The only difference is in the small print, it says limited or trust.
Didn't they target your nieces and nephews?
Yeah,
they put photographs of your children on the internet and encourage people to attack them.
That's
Is that
right,
right?
they did. They used children a lot, actually, as a weapon. Not only did they do that to me, and that was the first thing they did when they found out I was standing up in favour of fracking, they then actually would get placards and have protests, and they would have children holding a placard saying, fracking poisons the environment and children. And you'd have these very sad, worried-looking children holding these placards. And another thing they did in our area was they went outside of Pickering Junior School, and they were handing out leaflets that were dreadful about fracking. It was all misinformation. Not to the parents, to the 5-year-olds as they were coming out. I mean, it's been a disgrace.
They want to get into the little brains, don't they?
Yes, they do.
They do. But we're talking about slightly older people now.
Oh, don't look at me.
No, I'm not looking at you. I'm not looking at you. I'm not, would I look at you?
Jesus Christ.
I didn't mean it like that.
I was looking good.
No. You were talking to me about your concerns for 20-somethings in the Lancashire area, the unemployed, and about the fact that if nuclear was brought to the area, you could buy a flat for the same price in Morecambe as an apprentice's salary. Is that right?
Yeah, but before I do that, I've got to say hello to my next-door neighbour's right said Fred in the audience. I have to say, I'm deeply dippy about your vaccine status, and it's great. It's great to see. It's great to see some celebrities who aren't woke.
Yeah, absolutely. Are you too sexy for your shirt, Andre?
Now, let me tell you, my #1 policy when it comes to environmentalism is this: to take Sir Ed Davey, Ed Miliband and David Cameron out to Parliament Square and publicly flog them for the way that they have plunged people into poverty in this country. Hey, let me tell you, when you're talking about what goes on in Lancashire at the moment, we have had a war fought against us in terms of allowing fracking, just as it's happened in Yorkshire. You are talking about the dishonesty in the media of saying a level 2 seismic event on the Richter scale is an earthquake. That is complete nonsense. I lived on the Lancashire coalfield for many years, and alterations in the substructure are not unusual, and you would sleep through a level 2 as far as I'm concerned.
Is it the same as a bus going past?
Well, it certainly wasn't for me. And bear in mind, when I was at primary school, I didn't even drink, so I never kind of slept through these things. But then there was the other thing that I saw when I was in Lancashire, and it was the Heysham 1 and Heysham 2 nuclear power stations capable of producing around 4% of the national grid, which is, on a regular day, far more than wind turbines would create. And we fought and fought against further nuclear because of the dishonesty in the accounting that took place. What you have to do the strike price at which the government or the grid pays for the fuel is based on the cost of production. If you lie about how long a nuclear power station is going to live for, if you lie about how much it's going to cost to decommission, then you push up the strike price and you falsely make it look like nuclear is the most expensive green technology in the country.
Which
that
it isn't.
is absolute bullshit. It simply isn't. And then when also in Heysham, remember, is the port of Heysham, where you can get a lovely ferry to the Isle of Man, Dublin or Belfast, but not, well, hey, there we are. There we are. I could tell it was you. Your eyes were too close together. Anyway, no. But the Isle of Man Steam Packet Company says that if there is any more offshore wind, then that is going to restrict the number of services that they can sail, and instead to get to Belfast from places like Liverpool and Manchester, you will have to fly instead. And the final point I'd make is about smart meters, and the reason that I want to take Ed Miliband out and flog him. If Elon Musk was sat here...
He'd probably like it, Andre.
No. Whatever you think about these people, they would do the obvious thing on smart metering, which is to have your appliances operate at times when energy is cheaper.
Yeah.
But that's not what smart metering does. Smart metering tells you how much to boil a kettle. Who cares, right? but it's a fundamental mindset between those of us that believe that we should have greener energy through things like nuclear, through things like fracking, which, bear in mind, is a better hydrocarbon than coal, through things like clean coal, between those people and the people that want to return us to the Stone Age by constantly putting up the price and forcing us to use less.
And it's deliberate.
And let me tell you one thing about Greta Thunberg. It is bloody easy to tell people there's no such thing as future economic growth when you're sitting on a £4 million yacht. We have lifted 1 billion people out of poverty in the past 20 years.
Thank you.
And give me 1 second.
Okay.
And if we stop the Greta Thunbergs, if we stop the Ed Davies, if we stop the Ed Milibands, and if we stop the David Camerons, we'll lift another 1 billion people out of poverty in the next 20 years.
Thank you.
Oh, by the way, Len Bitopik can flog Ed Davey for me.
Really? Well, I think they both
Not
probably
like that,
enjoy
not like that, not like that. The cheeky girls are gone, you've only got right said Fred.
Will right said Fred do, Lembit?
Yeah, go on. They're fairly cheeky.
Right, shut up. Okay. Lawrence, freedom of speech, climate issues, there isn't any, and why is that?
I'm very sceptical of anything with the word zero in it.
Yeah, me too, yeah.
Especially after the last couple of years, because we've seen how well that worked out.
Yeah.
I don't like being lectured to by children who use more carbon than my mum or 25 of my mums did. And I think ideologically driven political practices always lead to mass death and mass destruction, and I think that we need to smash the ideology of it. The point here is, are we allowed to have a conversation about energy? Are we ready for renewables in Carrie Johnson's vision of how the country should? And I would say that I spent the last 2 years as I try and morph from fairly average actor to fairly shit politician.
You've been fantastic.
Spending a lot of time going to communities that are really directly affected by this stuff. And what you notice time and time again is that I went to a place in Durham where they closed an open cast coal mine, and we have the best coal in the world. You know, it's just one of the things, like we have the best trout streams in the world, and it's just one of the accidents of being British. And they're exporting brown coal in from Australia to fire a coal power station just so the woke people in Durham feel better about themselves. And I'm just like, ultimately, on a freedom of speech level, we're getting so diversified to the point where I want to go, fuck you.
Yeah.
Not let's have a chat about it, because we're same with COVID. You know, if you didn't do all the COVID stuff, you're an evil satanic bastard. If you didn't do the Me Too stuff, you're an evil satanic bastard. If you don't go with trans rights, you're an evil satanic bastard. and if you don't do the climate thing, it's an evil satanic bastard. And I'm sort of generally of the view that most things can be sorted out over a dinner table amongst friends. And if they can't be sorted out over a dinner table amongst friends, then they can be sorted out over a dinner table amongst not friends. But the idea that the climate is in some way a non-disputable issue, for me, tells me that the climate is not an issue that we should ignore. We should talk about it calmly and peacefully and just say, look, everywhere people are grabbing at us. They're grabbing at our ideologies. They're trying to grab the way we think. And we should, I was always taught when I was a kid to resist that way of thinking because it's extremism.
Well, we weren't allowed to talk about COVID, were we? And now we're not.
Some of us did.
Well, we're not at the beginning.
Actually, to be fair to James tonight, who put a huge amount of his shit on the line, James has always been very intellectually consistent in his view
he's
on
been absolutely amazing.
COVID. Now, other people can disagree, but the point is, he's allowed a point of view, I'm allowed my point of view, you're allowed your point of view. The idea that we can just shovel climate into the debate and go, if you don't believe that the giant sun monster is playing a part, it is. The sun is playing a part. I mean, God forbid anybody say that the Arctic ice cap's got a bit thicker this year.
Or that there was a medieval warming period, or there was a Roman warming period.
I was raised in a traditional way. And the way I was raised was my parents tried to make a better life for their children than they had for themselves.
That's what we all strive to do, isn't it?
I will not and do not want to live in a world where I raise my children to believe that they're a virus on this planet destroying it. I think it's an absolutely appalling abomination of the way we raise our children.
So do you think this is about taking us back to the Stone Age? Do you think this is about taking us back? Do you think that this is purely a libertarian control issue in the same way that COVID has been?
No, it's not. It's religious. It's got nothing
to do. You think it's a cult?
No, it's not a cult. It's not a cult. It's a religion.
Right.
The great thing about religion is in religion you have an outside force. And you're accountable to that outside force, right? So be it God, be it, well, it is God in every case.
Yeah.
But here we have a secular religion, which is inward-looking. And the problem with inward-looking man-made religions is that, as they point out in every religious text you'll ever read, is that men are sinful, women are sinful. When I say men, I mean all of us. We are sinful creatures, and we have the opportunity to be better. But we can only be better if we're accountable to something outside of ourselves, not something within ourselves. So this inward-looking woke shit needs to fucking end.
Thank you, absolutely.
It's a fucking disaster.
Why are the governments bowing down to all this then, this religion, Lance?
Because they're mad, quite frankly. I mean, I think they're getting things wrong morally and tactically. The moral thing that I don't really get is how they can argue that what we're trying to do here with all this green policy, all this green bullshit, is, we've got to save the planet for our great-grandchildren. I mean, if our children and we are struggling, who are we saving it for?
Yeah.
By the time our great-grandchildren are around, we will have, technology will have found solutions to the problems. We need to adapt in time.
If indeed there are any problems, because there's that saying, isn't it?
Indeed, there might not be any problems.
Was it 97% of scientists agree with whoever's paying them,
Exactly. So I think I just don't think there's a moral case, but also tactically. I remember when I was at college many, many moons ago, and you had all those CND people campaigning on Green and Common for unilateral nuclear disarmament, and the idea was, well, if we lead the way, the others will follow. And of course, everybody, any sensible politician, and certainly conservative politicians back in the time, knew that was complete nuts.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing now. If China and India and Russia aren't following net zero, even if you believe it, which I don't, but even if you did, it's mad to impoverish ourselves when they're not doing it. It's completely
it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
Andre, you wanted to come in?
Yeah, I mean, I used to work at the House of Commons both as a senior parliamentary assistant and then as James Dellingpod's lobby correspondent. I wasn't very good at either, but well, never mind. They paid me anyway. But actually, what you tended to find was there's just a whole social class there of people that talk to themselves. You know, the reason that you will get cancelled if you're Lawrence, say, from Sky News, is not because.
Am I cancelled?
So you're old, he's cancelled. We're not doing very well here.
Just an example of anyone. The reason you might get cancelled is because effectively, not of the viewers of any TV show, not of the listeners of any radio station, it will just be that the producer goes to a dinner party in Hampstead that weekend, where everyone goes, why the hell did you get on?
It's probably Muswell Hill.
It probably is Muswell Hill, yeah. but I think that is the way that nobody seems to be interested. But you go to the House of Commons now, and every single person walks up to you and goes, I completely agree with you on vaccinations, I completely agree with you on lockdown,
right,
I completely agree with you on net zero, I just can't say it. And you think to yourself, have a fucking backbone.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Right, come on. My Yorkshire lass, come on, sort us all out, sort it all out. What are we going to do? How are we going to resolve this?
Get rid of the weak politicians.
Yay!
Because they are a pain. When it came to fracking, they haven't the backbone to take control and make it go ahead, make it, of national importance. They just let it float along. The company's wasted about 400 million trying to invest in it, and Ed Davey, who in the coalition was head of energy, working out of Bays, which is supposed to be about business and industrial strategy, he made sure that the regulations were too strict for it to succeed. He actually admitted that recently on Andrew Marsh's show. And you think, why were you in the position you were in? Because you're against business. And people sort of get on about Jim Ratcliffe from Ineos because he moved and took his Grenadier to be built abroad. Well, after all the flack had taken over the fracking, because he was prepared to invest, and he'd invested about 240 million in it, he got no support. None of the companies got any support, and yet the government was supposedly supporting them. I've never been paid by anybody to campaign. I campaigned, I funded it myself, because people say, oh, the fossil fuel industry.
So we need stronger politicians.
We do, and we need gas. You're not going to stop using gas like that.
No, we're not. Lawrence, I just wanted to say, actually, how extraordinarily impressed I've been with the work that you've been doing against all the child grooming shit that's been going on recently. That's amazing.
Thank you.
The family sex show, what the bloody hell is that about? And how can we stop our kids from being indoctrinated with the green rubbish?
Well, it's really important, isn't it, to understand that you've got big state, small man. So... and men and women are different. Sorry for any transgender people out there.
Any sane person does know that, don't they?
Men and women are different. So when the state tries to put its arms into your family, which it did over child vaccinations, and Savage Jabbit did it today, it did it today saying we can give your child a COVID pass. And it's like, we, the government, can reach into your family, into the very most sacred things. The only way knowledge and truth are passed from generation to generation, and that's with all understanding that, families are very different, is from an elder to a younger, and that's how it's done. And the state coming in and sexualizing our children is an abomination.
It is an abomination. And terrifying the life out of them.
It's more than that. And I think James probably would, James is further down the rabbit hole than I am on this one. But I do believe in God, right? So, and at the very least, if I wanted to secularize it, I'd say I believe in good and evil, or good and bad, or whatever it is. But this is an extremely dangerous time for our children.
Dark.
Because if the state can put its hand into your child and say, here, we're going to send you a text to your mobile, you can get vaccinated for a disease that's going to do absolutely no harm at all, for which there has been no public debate whatsoever, and that state can pit its child against his parent, you are fucked as a society. It's game over.
No,
so we should. It's the same as any form of radicalization. It's like you don't want you need to have the family unit. Now, that doesn't mean that you can't have two dads or two mums or whatever. We are a liberal, progressive, secular democracy.
But scaring the life out of them with the green indoctrination, specifically, that the world is going to end, I think it's not.
You don't teach your children.
It's horrific.
You do not teach your children that they're a virus destroying this planet.
No, you
because
certainly
that's what Dr. fucking Fauci has done for the last 2 years.
Thank you.
Can I say something to my children? Do you mind if I just respond to that? Because I think this was Tony Blair under the Children's Act. When I was a little baby, I was what's called an ABO baby. I was dying. And my mother, as part of her mother's instinct, insisted I had medical care that doctors didn't recognise. Nowadays, if a parent disagrees with a medic, the medic can overrule them, even if that means the child dies. That's the Tony Blair Children's Act, and we need to get rid of that as well. That was where the problem started.
What we need to get rid of is not the Children's Act. We need to say to Tony Blair, thanks very much, mate, fuck off. That's what we need to do.
Okay.
I'm good.
You know, well done. Well done for getting all those people to vote for you and getting in Mondeo, man, and all that crap that you did. But you bombed 1 million Iraqis. You killed 1 million innocent civilians. You fucking war criminal. And you know, stop all of this stupid, massive, ridiculous virtue signalling. You know, you notice everyone's taking their Ukraine flags out their bios.
Well, there's no one more virtuous or virtue signalling than a green woke oil protester sticking himself. We're actually very, very disappointed because we did actually have some super glue here for anyone that wanted to come onto the stage and glue themselves to any of our panelists, but no one's volunteered. Anyway, I'd just like to say thank you so much, but sadly, my dear panelists, that's all we've got time for. For those of you in the audience, let me leave you with some special requests. CAR26 is a very, very, very young organisation. It's climate analysis reasons. So we're fighting carbon net zero nonsense wherever we can, but we're up against the globalist agenda, the UN, the EU, the mainstream media, everyone basically, and we need your help. Your energy bills are set to go up by £1,000, if not more, this year. So let us help you by stopping your subsidies for the wind farms when the wind doesn't blow and the solar panels for the sun when the sun doesn't shine, by telling the energy companies to stick their energy bills up where the sun doesn't shine.
Yeah.
You can find a link on our website, so press the donate button. Alternatively, if you want something for your donation back right now, we have some extremely sexy CAR26 t-shirts and sweatshirts available in the foyer, and it will make you really, really attractive, especially to me. Well, all of us, actually. Lawrence, Lance, all of us. Yeah. And finally, as mentioned, please, please, please sign our End the Fracking petition. If you get your phones out, get them out. Come on, guys, get them out. Get them out right now. Get the phones out. Go onto Google. Google End Fracking Ban. Go on to the thing.
It's quite a lot of work, Lois.
It is, I know. I'm sorry, I know. It is late in the day, Loza, isn't it? It is late in the day.
Clicking a link.
End Fracking Ban.
Google?
Help him out. All right. End fracking ban, click on the link, then you have to click on it again, clickety-click. If you're feeling very generous, get your friends to do it as well, and let's get fracking. So thank you for listening. Thank you to my panel, and yeah, see you all again soon. Fuel freedom, way!
Hey!
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much to our panel, Lois Perry, Lance Forman, Lawrence Fox, Andre Walker and Lorraine Allanson. We're going to take a 15-minute break. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this second half of tonight's amazing show. Yes, 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 and it's song time, ladies and gents. It's song time. Boo.